No, the industry just has evolved. I mean, everybody used to buy a pair of boxing gloves. Everybody used to protect their nuts. Over the last 2 or 3 years, it's getting harder and harder to sell gloves or boxes to people. People just accepting they prefer to save the $5 or $7 and get shot in the neck.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 10 of Down Under Paintball. This week, I sit down with Danny Cumming. This was a great episode. It's something I haven't really covered much on the show. We had a good chat about, what it's like to run a field and have the everyday punters coming through. It's something that not everyone's done, running paintball groups, but it's definitely an art form, and me and Danny covered that quite well. I feel like Danny did a really good job in this interview. I didn't really have to guide him too much. He just sort of spilled it all and told me everything about the history of paintball and paintball in Victoria. So unfortunately there's a little bit of background sound in this one, so sorry about that one. But hope you enjoy the chat with Danny. I'm Scott and this is Down Under Paintball. Here today joined by Danny Cumming. How's it going?
Oh, fantastic, Scott, mate. How are you?
Oh, I'm great. It's good to catch up with people in the trying times we have at the moment with the isolation.
Oh, yeah, it's driving us nuts. I mean, I don't think I've basically been this so inactive for, I just don't, probably last time I got closed down by the police 15 years ago. So, yeah, it's all good.
Yeah. So how's everything going? Are you handling it all right? Like getting through it? You can
Oh,
see the
yeah.
light on the other side?
Oh, yeah, I think it's going to affect the industry majorly. I mean, everybody's getting accustomed to social distancing and basically uneducating people not to do what they're going to spend the next 6 to 12 months doing to actually get back out there and actually get next to their mates and just have a bit of fun. It's going to be quite hard.
Yeah, I guess we're lucky paintball's a pretty social distancing sport at least, while
Yeah,
you're playing.
yeah.
Maybe not on the car park and that kind of stuff.
Oh, well, yeah, that's the whole thing because, you rely on people coming in their buses or two or three in a car, then they congregate at the front desk. You've also not just them playing, you've also got the girlfriends, mothers, wives, who are going to be the major influences, encouraging people not to actually get out there. Um, and, like paintball, like the industry itself, survives on probably about 40 to 60% bucks parties.
Yeah.
And, like all of our bookings in from March onwards just evaporated. And the whole argument was because the reception centres, which are hosting the weddings,
Yeah.
aren't operating, they're basically no need for bucks parties. So
Yeah, okay.
it was just crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, it's unfortunately it is. I know that that's how like a lot of field operate. You don't make your bulk of your money off our tournament players. It's more the punters and stuff like that. They're the ones that bring in the the steady stream of income.
Oh, yeah, that's right. I mean, the tournament players, shit. Uh, the average tournament player doesn't realise how much of a discount he truly gets. And I mean, I understand that compared to some parts of the world, we're sort of expensive. Like you can go to the US and compete in some of the events like in Excel or over there, and you're only paying, I don't know, $45 to $50 per box of paint. But that's still US. And that still works out to probably about 70 or $80.
Yeah,
Down here in Victoria for the NXL, the average price for the 3 star, 4 star, and 5 star is anything between like $75 to $90 a box. So the difference is only probably maybe the GST component, if that makes sense. So we're
yeah,
fortunate down here for cost wise. Um, but I mean, I've been involved in paintball. I remember one of the events I played down at Carrum Downs back in probably 93, 94. It was $250 a case. So,
yeah,
there was $500 for 2 boxes of paintballs for myself. And I was like, and when you're talking 25, 30 years ago, when the average wage was probably $450 or even less, 350, when you're paying 500 for 2 boxes, I mean, what's the average wage supposed to be nowadays? 750 to 900 take
yes.
home.
Yeah.
And when you go to an event and it's going to cost you $300-400 for paint, it's even, yes, it's expensive, but at the end of the day, it's something you could basically save for, manage for. Does it make sense? It's not a horribly expensive sport if you want to talk about motor racing or anything like
Oh
that.
yeah.
Yeah.
No, I've looked into doing that, and it's just I didn't get very far into it once you saw how much it cost.
Oh yeah, a bottomless pit. And hey,
Yeah.
it's great when you're in your 20s. You can do whatever you like, but once you get past that, you have a family. Then all of a sudden, and I think that's why the majority of paintballers are between the late teens, 20s, early 30s. Because once you get past that, it's like any sport. You've got to start looking at the future, looking after yourself,
Yeah.
or your
No,
family.
that's probably the main reason why people get out of the sport is a family.
Yep. Yep. Yep.
So, you mentioned playing, events back in the day. Like, why don't we start right back at the beginning and let us know how you got into the sport?
Oh, okay. If you go back, I'm talking in the 80s. Well, first off, my original sport that I did from my teens right through my 20s, I was a wrestler, amateur wrestler. I went to two Commonwealth Games, went to four World Cups, I went to 3 or 4 world titles, and I went to one Olympics for
Oh wow.
Australia. And when I was 26, 27 at that stage, and I'd been competing for years, and I was looking at the end of my sport. I was also looking at had a girlfriend who I was getting quite serious with, who's now my wife for the last 30 years. Um,
Congratulations.
yep, thank you. And so one day, my wife's cousins, they invited me to come and play paintball. And I was like, what's that? And when he told me what it was, running around the bush, dressed in camouflage gear, hunting each other down, shooting at each other, I couldn't get there quick enough. I thought it was fantastic. Fell in love with the first time, played it every week, 2 weeks, snuck away whenever I could. And then I went, no, I could do this. I could. So we basically, I think I first started playing in '88. I think it was in my first competition. I think it was '89 or '90 was when the Green Machine from the US came over, which had Ron Palmer and all those sort of people in it.
Yeah. Okay.
And that's what really introduced us, because I was up in Newcastle, and that introduced us to a whole different style of paintball. Long balling. Back then, no such thing. You'd basically be sneaking through the bush, bigger areas, having the odd shot, not long balling like they did. I played with the Blackwood Hunters, which was a field west of Melbourne at that stage. It used to snow actually there. I
Yeah.
played
Okay.
quite a few times in 6, 8 inches of snow. And the paintball magazines of the time, when they first brought one out, I was fortunate enough to be on the front cover, which was, they just wanted somebody who was
Yeah.
stupid enough to jump over some barricades covered in snow and not kill themselves. Um, but so that's where I first started. I started with the Blackwood Hunters with Al Grierson. Al Grierson was a character in the industry back then. Um, then I was lucky enough to basically be able to operate underneath one of these 6 licenses. That back then in Victoria, there's only 6 licenses to play paintball. It was done underneath a regulation council. So the 6 licenses permitted companies or people to run paintball events, which meant that people didn't have to have a shooter's license to actually participate in it. Then once,
Okay.
yep. So when
Sounds crazy.
it is. Then when I convinced my wife, which didn't take much to get involved in the business, we sold our house, and I was supposed to move back with my mother for maybe 2 years while the business got going. So after 8 years, we finally left. Um, so yeah, that was trying times for my darling
Yeah.
wife. Um, but the industry itself, look, back then it was seen as paramilitary. In Victoria, here's an interesting thing. We opened our first field back in, I think, 93. After purchasing the property in 91, took us nearly 2 years to get through the planning approval because we were all paramilitary nuts. Then even after we passed that, we couldn't operate on Sundays. There was no shooting for pleasure or profit on the Sunday, so we could only trade on the Saturday. That's how ridiculous it was.
That's where, like, majority people don't normally go to play paintball during the week.
No, that's right.
Crazy.
Yep. Then we did the paintball. Then in '96, the regulation and council was coming up for renewal because it ran for 10 years. Then Port Arthur happened. Then we were closed down. Then the industry itself basically banded together to do a lawsuit to basically argue the point to get it running. We lost in the courts, but
did it go like all the way to the High Court or?
No, just the Supreme Court in Melbourne. But the police on the steps basically said, well, we could have done it a lot different, and they weren't particularly interested in us. It was just unfortunate that they had to close. So we were only allowed to play with people who had shooters licenses, but we technically in Victoria, all the operators just ignored it. We started operating. So, but then I purchased Coldstream, my second field in the Yarra Valley, in '99, and because he was closed because he wouldn't operate illegally. So we operated illegally. We then purchased the property. And the first day we opened, we had 150 people on the Saturday and 150 on Sunday.
Oh, awesome!
It was mad. Then we're running. I had two fields, the Bland field as well as the Coldstream field. That was up to the 90s, but I mean we ran tournaments at Bland in '94 and I think '96. My SWAT came down and played there. We used to play over at Strathhausen in South Australia with the Screaming Phantoms with the tournaments over there. I think that's when I first met Michael over there, when we were competing against each other. Apparition, my team, originally played with Blackwood Hunters. Apparition started in '95. So even though at the moment I don't really have a team, but over the years, tournament players are always gone. Being one yourself,
it's hard to get away.
It is. It's so hard. So the industry has had its ups and downs. The Blackwood field closed in about '96 because Dion Gilbert, who owned Coldstream, convinced Al Greason, who in the Blackwood field, to basically sell him the license so they could band together to market better. But what happened was Dion, being an individual, just absolutely screwed him over. And then when the industry was closed down, the field wasn't operating, and so I bought that one. Then I think we operated illegally until '93, when the police decided to basically close everything down. The reason the industry was closed down in Victoria was because what's the guy from Moama at that time? Manda, what's the guy from Moama? That was Peter. Peter Spencer. That's it. Yeah, Spencer. Peter Spencer. The funny thing is, I used to play on Peter's team, the Jets. We played over at the Rotorua Open, I think in 2002 and 2003 with the team.
I saw some photos of that. Yeah, it looks.
It was great. Yeah, it was good. No, it was really excellent. We won the first year, and then the second year, I can't recall. I don't think I played the second year. I think we were closed down because Peter was writing letters to the police minister down here to get us closed down because we were all operating illegally, where he was over the border operating in New South Wales and everybody's going over there. And,
Okay.
I can say that he did it because I was sitting at a table having dinner with him when we were there with Peter Russell on the other side, and he told me to my face that he did. So, so it's not as though it's an accusation. He did, and at the end of the day, it's 15 years ago, so it doesn't matter. But
Yeah.
what happened because he dobbed us in, we got raided. But then I went up and put a deposit on a block of land in Moama, which was next door to him. There was a barbed wire fence between us, and I put
Yeah.
plans in to put a building up there with swimming pools and all shit like that. And then what happened was that while our planning application was going ahead and we were closed,
Yep.
I got an opportunity to go to a function where the police minister was fronting, and I had a word with him, and I found out that he had all intentions of reopening the sport back in Victoria.
Oh, okay.
So once I found that out, I then forfeited the deposit on the block of land in Moama. I purchased the Cockatoo field in east of Melbourne because that was closed. Because I knew about 4 months before everybody else that everything was coming back. So then we ended up with 3 fields, which we still got today.
Yep.
Then we contacted the other operators in Victoria, which was Steve Gauci, Mark Fitzgerald, Peter Russell. Who else was there? There was another operator as well. That we had a meeting with the police minister, and that we wanted them to be involved in it. Originally, when I found out the industry is coming back, my first gut feeling was to form 5 different companies and to screw everybody else over in the state. Well, that was typical, but the only reason I was going to do that because 6 months earlier, the other operators who were all still talking to each other contacted us and said they had a meeting with the previous police minister, and he had bailed on them and told them not to come. And because my family was associated with the Labor Party, because I've been a city councillor, my brother's been a city councillor, my brother's been a mayor, my sister's been a mayor, my sister is current Upper House West member for Victoria. So we've been involved in politics for a while. They asked if there was anything I could do to help them because the police minister bailed. And my first words were with them is that at what stage were you going to invite me?
Okay.
I own 3 fields, and the other operators were trying to backdoor me.
Yeah, it sounds like just you could almost. It sounds like a soap opera. The amount of just different things that everyone's been doing to each other. It's crazy.
Oh yeah, but like I said, my first impressions were like, oh, here's a good opportunity, a bit of revenge. But then I thought, well, if I rock up at a meeting with 5 new faces, first off, they would know that the other operators have been contacting them. If I tried to pretend that these people don't exist, it would make me look stupid. It would make the industry look hopeless, and there would be absolutely no way that we could actually convince them that we're a legitimate organisation. So I invited everybody else so we could get the actual industry going, if that makes sense. So when we opened up, business was back to normal within a week. It was fantastic. I was running 500, 600 people at the 3 fields within a month. And
So when was that? When did you guys get it back?
That was back in 2006, 2007.
Yeah, okay. I didn't realize it was illegal for that long. That's crazy.
From 2006, no, from 96, when everybody had to have a shooter's license in Victoria. It was 2003. Most of us were operating illegally. I was the only one who was prosecuted. They did a police raid. The operation was Operation Farsi. They'd been doing an investigation for 3 months.
Yeah.
When they did the interview with the other operators, they were like, no, no one's operating. It's only all Danny. They're all pointing the finger at me, which was, oh
Oh,
yeah,
wow.
that's life. But even the police said that I had no friends in the industry. They said they were all dobbing me in, even though one of the fields, the Cockatoo field, that I bought from one of the other operators 4 months before the industry got closed down because he found out the industry was going to be raided and I was targeted. And so
Yep.
he decided to sell me the field, knowing that I was going to be raided. So,
Yeah, right. Oh,
um, it's a
yeah.
good thing. But he was probably one of the first operators in the country.
Yeah,
He
okay.
basically, he was operating. He was involved with the um, licenses when it first formed back in '86, which means he
Yeah.
was involved. He was involved in it in '85. So he was around from '84, '85. He then he was what's his name? Damien Fitzgerald. His brother is Mark Fitzgerald, who runs the Skyfield down in Carrum Downs.
Yeah,
And
okay. Yeah.
okay, and
I know that name. Yeah.
yep. Well, the interesting thing too is Damien had the license, so Mark had to pay him a fee per person to operate under his license. Plus, he actually, I believe, he started the Coldstream field, which he then sold to Dion, which he then opened a new field, which is Cockatoo. So it's murky as shit.
Yeah. So
Um,
just sounds like they've set all these fields up just for you. You've
oh,
yeah.
oh yeah, but then when what was it 2007 when they opened up the industry, they it's like New South Wales. If you could apply to the council, you could then apply to the registry, you could then open a field as long as whatever. So we ended up with I think we got 20 fields down here running around the place.
Yep.
You know,
Okay.
and unfortunately we've got IPG, which is the parasite of the industry down here. Actually,
Yep.
the Melbourne field, to my understanding, is the most profitable out of all of them. They will run on average maybe 200 to 250 people on a Saturday and maybe 200 on a Sunday or 150 on a Sunday. They can run up to 900 people on Christmas periods in a week. They're
Wow.
massive. Yeah,
That's
and
huge. Yeah.
it's on 5 acres.
Yeah, okay. That's tiny for a paintball field. It's
Oh yeah, it is. I
yeah.
mean, you go there, they've got 120 kids playing in an area which is like half the size of a tournament field, and
Yep.
then beside it, you've got another group of 40 or 50 guys playing with normal paintball guns, but there's no shade cloth, there's no boundary, there's only a tape between the two fields.
Yeah, okay.
It's the most crazy thing.
That sounds like mayhem.
Oh, it is. It is. It's fun. But oh well, I was stupid enough to be with them for quite a few years. So
Yep.
oh well.
Yeah, I've heard some pretty bad stories about that organization. So
Well. Here's an interesting thing. It's like the IPG that was formed 10 years ago was deregistered I think 2.5 years ago. So the current IPG that's running around the place has got nothing to do. Well, it is the same company. They just deregistered because of all the bad reviews. So
yep.
yeah, so it's not the same one as 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Deregistered. So it is the current one. But that guy, I think he lives in is it New South Wales? I'm not even sure. That's yeah, but that's like
Yeah. So that one is quite close to the like to the CBD down in Melbourne.
Melbourne. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh no, it's
Or is it?
basically west around where they are. It's southeast. There is Snipers Den, which is 400 meters away. You've got Carrum Downs, which is probably about I don't know 15 k's away. Then you've got Oakley Indoor, which is probably about 10 k's away. There's about 5 paintball fields, all within probably about 15 k's of each other down there. It's
Yeah.
crazy.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. A lot of
Um,
competition.
yeah, Snipers Den is quite good. Oakley Indoor, they're doing heaps of kids. Carrum Downs, they've got some mad games. I just don't understand how they do it. Well, I'll put it this way: they have an 8 meter no-go area in the middle of the field.
Yep.
So you start on the left-hand side, you start on the right, and you shoot the bell on the other side, but you don't actually cross the middle.
Yeah. Okay. That's
You know? Yeah.
Yeah. I guess punters like that kind of stuff sometimes. They get a bit scared about being shot.
Oh yeah. I tell you, look, compared to years ago, the industry has changed so much. I mean, when we first started playing in the 90s, people would get there at 7 o'clock in the morning, about an hour before you open, so they can get a good gun.
Yeah.
Then
Okay.
the guns were crap, the paint was crap, the goggles were crap, and it rained. Down here in Victoria, it rained. It
Yep.
rained 24/7.
Yeah.
It would rain. It would rain at 7 o'clock in the morning, and it would stop at 4:30 when everybody left. Um, and they would not leave. They would not leave. They would just, but they would shoot. 1,000 paintballs. We used to charge $240 for 1,000 paintballs.
Yep.
And you couldn't have enough people, and you'd pay extra to get a semi-automatic instead of a pump-action gun. The goals were just horrid.
Yeah. So do they have like a face shield then, or are they just eye goggles?
No. The goggles were quite good. They actually had back then. You had the JT Crossfires, and I think everybody was still using them until probably that. I don't know, 7 years ago. A lot of fields,
Yeah.
but it was just that they were, compared to today, it's it's not the same as nowadays. All 90% of the goggles we run at Coldstream and that are all bloody JTs. JT, like the Spectres, all those sort of
Yep.
they got
Yeah.
thermals
Yeah.
and all that sort of stuff. And all our goggles we run the soft foam, not the hard foam, because I
Yeah.
think it just seals better around the face, so you don't get as many issues.
Yeah. No, they're definitely a lot more comfortable because those punters are out for long periods of time. They're not out for 10 minutes at a time. They
Yep.
need a comfortable pair of goggles on their face.
Yep. No, the industry just has evolved. I mean, everybody used to buy a pair of boxing gloves. Everybody used to protect their nuts. Over the last 2 or 3 years, it's getting harder and harder to sell gloves or boxes to people. People just accepting they prefer to save the $5 or $7 and get shot in the dick. I don't understand it.
Yeah, it's I remember the first time I played, that was the first thing I put on. That was
Yeah.
the most thing I was worried about.
Yeah. Which field did you first play at, Scott? Anyway, mate.
No, I was lucky enough. I lived just down the road from Action, so I got a job there before I actually was allowed to. I was old enough to play, so
Yep.
I just through a friend of a friend of a friend sort of thing, somehow got a job, and that was it. So
Yep.
yeah,
Yep.
I was reffing games before I was allowed to play.
Yeah. Oh well, you understand punters. Jesus Christ.
Yeah,
Look.
definitely was fun.
Look. This is terrible. I mean, when my instructions to my referees, because we train them up. There's about 3 main rules. Number 1 rule: never apologise. Because nobody knows anything's wrong unless you tell them. Because
Yeah,
at the end of the day, you don't go, oh, sorry, mate, sorry you're breaking paint. The paint's a bit shit today, you know what I mean? Or the weather's no good, or, you know what I mean? Or the
yeah,
sticking together is swelling. Or fogging, sorry, your goggles are fogging. It's like, you just go, well, sorry, mate. You just say, well, my goggles are fogging too,
yeah,
you know? Um,
yeah. It is like that
or if,
sometimes.
yeah, or too, the other thing too, if you say the magic words, oh, sorry, mate, you're having gun problems, everybody in the group will want you to have a look at their gun the moment you say there's a
Yeah.
problem.
You pull the squeegee out as a referee, and that's all you do for the next 20 minutes, just squeegee in everyone's barrels.
Yep. The average person doesn't know anything's wrong or anything's happening unless you tell them, and that's
Yep.
what it is. It's not me, because people will go, "Oh, mate, can you defog my goggles too?" It's like, oh no, mate, I can still see your eyes. You're fine. Oh, mate, I'm fogging. Mate, no, you're not fogging. Yeah, look at the guy beside you. That's fogging. You're not. Or or you say, my gun's not firing, mate. They all do that. Then that's fine. They accept it. But if you apologise that their gun's farting or they broke a paintball or two paintballs in the gun, I just tell them, mate, you don't want to be shooting marbles at each other. But
Yep.
I still enjoy refereeing.
Are you
It's a
still going to get out
social
there
thing.
and do it? Yeah.
Love it. I think it's great fun. But the issue is that I've gone from being a 25 or 27-year-old owner or operator, being one of the boys, to being like
Yeah.
59 and being one of the dads. And when you butts parties, you know what I mean? They don't want to be told by the dads, you know what I mean? And that's
Yeah.
why
Okay.
it's
Yep.
better for me to get young guys to run the groups.
Yep.
Women, I've got one or two women. I've had one or two referees who have been women, but they're more likely to cause issues. I mean, it's like my sister-in-law. She used to be one of my referees. She's right in front of me. Terrible person. She is terrible. No, look, I find paintball brings out a lot of qualities out of referees. The average referee will start off being a meek, mild individual, and then they'll become more social and they'll become more confident. The referees who are more vocal and more barking at the very beginning are not good referees because they think it's an authoritarian thing
Yeah.
and they've got more tendency to yell or nearly abuse or swear at the staff or the customers
Yep.
rather than understanding that it's a social thing.
Yeah, that's
Um,
it. And I've always got the saying that I reckon anyone that puts a mask on that drops their IQ severely.
oh,
So you've always got to give a bit of room there for the groups.
yep, yep, you do. Oh, look, and the other thing too, I try to get them to learn three names, minimum three names of the group.
Yeah.
And everybody says, oh shit, I'm horrible with names. I can't remember names. It's easy. It's like the first person who lifts their goggles. It's like it'll always be the big guy, or you say, mate, what's your name? Michael. Michael, please keep your goggles on. Second, you know the organizer. The organizer is the alpha. Then you learn the alpha male. There's only
Yeah.
three people you need to know: the person who lifts his goggles all the time, the person who's organised the group, and the person who everybody kisses ass to because he's the alpha male.
Yeah.
And then what happens? You find the alpha male, which will be George, right? Just say he's George.
Yeah.
And you see somebody, they got their goggles up. You go, George, do us a favour, mate. What's his name? Yes, Michael. Get Michael to get his goggles on. George, thanks, mate. You
Yeah.
get the group to run the thing, and as long as and plus if you say three or four names in the group, all of a sudden they think you might know the organizer, or you might know George, or you might know Michael, because because once they hear you say a person's name two or three times, all of a sudden you're part of the group and they don't want to arc up on you as much, because if they arc up on you, they think, well, maybe you might know one of my friends, then I'm going to look like a dickhead arcing
Yeah.
up at a mate of a mate.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
It's a bit of chook mentality, but
Oh.
as long as you know three names, you have no issue. Even if you're just the person with the white shoes,
Yeah. Yeah.
that's the easiest way to remember something. When they leave, wouldn't remember next week, wouldn't remember 6 months later. I mean, you're refereed, you get people go, oh shit, yeah, I've had you, yeah, I remember last time I was here, I did this.
Yeah.
And you go, yeah, mate, I
Yeah.
remember you ran over there and got shot. And they goes, yeah, you remember me. And you just go like, fuck, they all run over there and get shot.
Yeah,
You know?
it's definitely a juggling act, rapping. It was one of those things it was an art form to it. It's as strange
Yep.
as it sounds, it was just really, you had to have this really subtle control over the group, and you could just tell the people that didn't have it, as soon as they lost that control, oh man, there was some dangerous things happening out on that field if the referee, isn't looking after the group properly.
Oh, well, you'd know as well as I, you'd have a referee storm in, shot the shit out.
Yeah.
And you go like, mate, first off, it's like, that group's uncontrollable. And all you can think to yourself is like, what the fuck were you saying to them to get them to shoot you? You're obviously
Yeah.
being
Yeah.
rude
Yeah.
because you know yourself, Scott. Because if you say, mate, get your fucking goggles on or else, the guy behind you, which is his mate, will be going to his friend going, I'd like to see him say that to me. And they nearly goat you
Yeah.
into doing it. And
Yeah.
then No, you've always got to be nice, polite thing. Oh, we've kicked many groups. It's probably like you've probably kicked heaps of groups off as well. We kick
Oh
groups
yeah.
off.
There's been groups that
Yeah.
haven't even made it through the door sometimes. They're
Oh,
just, yeah, they turn up and you can just tell, like, yeah, we'll just see you later.
yeah,
They are.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So they're dangerous to themselves and as well as everybody else.
Yeah.
But I'll tell my staff if you are going to kick somebody off, first off, don't tell them you're going to kick them off. Do not say it. You just say, listen, guys, we're going to head up. We're going to basically have a drink, and then we're going to calm down. We're going to come back out.
Yeah.
Then you get them to rack their guns, and then when you get them in the compound, gear off, mate. You're finished. You get the
Yeah.
guns out of their hands.
Yeah.
Otherwise,
Yeah.
they're going to shoot you.
Yeah.
And,
Yep. No, it's yeah, I've seen all that crazy stuff.
yeah,
You just couldn't pick the amount of things that I've seen on paintball fields. Yeah, with punters, they just everything. My favorite ones are guys that try and climb trees. I always love that.
oh yeah,
Yeah,
oh yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
There's only
And you
one
just
way
scratch it.
down, and everyone on the
Yep,
ground's got a gun.
that's right. Or you're up there and they're just going to shoot the shit out of them, and you
Yeah,
just go like. But if they want to do it, they want to do it. I don't
yeah,
tell anybody not to do anything.
yeah,
If they want to shoot the shit out of the buck, as long as the buck's happy with it, that's
yeah,
not my thing. I
yeah.
just tell them.
As long as they're having
If
fun.
exactly right. If the guy's in a fetal position, he's had enough. As simple as that. Okay. But other than that, but most of the groups nowadays are a lot softer than the other ones. Like 20 years ago, their dads.
Yep.
It sounds terrible to say that, but you see, like I said, they get there at 7 in the morning, banging the gates to get in. They won't leave until 5. Nowadays, they'll be booked in to play at 9. They get there at 9:30, play until 11:30, and then off by 12 because
Yeah.
they've got
Okay.
4 other things to do.
Yeah. Yeah.
But they'll spend the same amount of money in the 3 hours as they used to do in the 7 hours. So
Yeah. I guess those are Did you run like electronic guns and stuff like that at the field?
no,
At your fields?
no,
Yeah, or
no,
even just the
no.
semi-auto compared to pump, like just the rate of fire
Oh,
goes up and the
yep.
guys they just want to shoot.
Oh, they do. They do. I mean, look, Michael's always had fantastic marketing skills. The way he does everything at the front counter. Uh, I think he's got too many staff sometimes. I think that's always been his issue. But service, no, he provides a good service. Him and John, they're good business people. And the customer, he'll do whatever he can to get the customers to repeat. But
Yep.
I don't think you get the same loyalty from customers as you used to 20 years ago. I used to get them, you see somebody 2 weeks, 6 weeks later. Nowadays, you might see somebody, 2 years later, but it's about it. Not the same.
Yeah, and it'd be hard, like the amount of fields it sounds like you guys have down there. There's a lot of competition. I just don't think we have that much up in Sydney. I don't think we have more than 10 fields.
Yeah, it's the fact that there's just too many people. I'm just trying. Yeah, it's just crazy. There's just too many fields down here at the moment.
Yep.
But saying that, like I said, 40 to 60% of the industry is still just being run by IPG down here. I think that's
Yeah.
what percentage. Marketing, it's that $9 ticket.
Yep.
Just gets them in there. It doesn't matter. It's like the La Paquetta's pizza or the a $5 pizza. You know what I mean? There mightn't be much on it, but it's $5. That's
Yeah.
what it
Yeah.
matters. It's $5.
Yeah.
I had a mate who was like that. He took me to La Paquetta's probably 20 years ago. And I said, mate, these pizzas are shit. But he said, mate, they're $7. They're $7. But I said, shit. He
Yeah.
said, $7.
Yeah. Some people just care about that. Yeah.
Yep.
You can triple the price on something and then say it's half price and people will buy it because
Yes.
they think they're getting a good deal.
Yep. Yep.
They just see 50% off and they'll go for it.
That's right. Exactly.
So,
Yeah.
well, yeah, all those years ago, like what sort of drove you? Was it just something that you wanted to do? Like you just wanted to buy a field? Was that just you just saw that business opportunity and wanted to jump on it?
Well, yes. I played it, and the first day I played it, I fell in love with it. I found that it was fun. It was an activity. It was everybody I played with. I joined the team straight away. Was friendly. It was just a great atmosphere. Back then, bushball was a tournament, if that makes sense.
Yep.
I mean, like I said, when I had my own field, I mean, you'd have your bunkers and you'd have your trenches and stuff like that. And that's what the tournament was in. I mean, I played at Yarra Monday a few times, you know. I've got a couple of photos in the trenches on the right-hand side in an event,
Yep.
you know, or on the left-hand side in the big bush setting. You know, that's what tournament was. It was. Then I played up in Brisbane at one of the internationals where it was in a soccer ground. I think it was East Brisbane. I think, you know, you had the pipes running across the ground blowing up the
Oh, yeah.
barricades.
Yeah, the
You
original
know?
Sup Air.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, Michael was there. Rookie was there. Jesus. Last time I saw a rookie, I didn't believe that he was basically a snake catcher. Jesus,
Yeah.
what an odd job.
Yeah.
You know?
Giant beard.
Yeah. No, look, I got involved in paintball because I fell in love with it. I found that I was a people person, and yeah, I could do it. I could, and then I had the confidence to convince my wife to basically sell the house to get involved in it. So
Yeah, it's a
yeah.
big leap to make, but yeah, it sounds like and it's like I didn't realize that you guys went through all those troubles with the laws down there, and just I love that civil disobedience, that everyone was just getting out and still running games even if it was illegal. I reckon that's
Oh,
awesome.
oh, look, you know, I can say that. Well, my wife and I are the only two criminals in paintball. I mean, because there's firearm charges. So
Yeah, okay.
I know
Well,
it doesn't
yeah.
sound good, my darling wife. She's saying, yeah, well, we both got convicted. So we got a $5,000 fine.
Yeah.
The guns were confiscated for proceeds of crime. I was permitted to then send them or sell them to Tim McCarthy up in Brisbane, who held on to them and the police, even though we were being prosecuted, allowed us to transfer our gun dealer's license across to my brother so that he could then run the games for the 12 months that we were prohibited people.
Yeah, yeah.
So then after 12 months of being a prohibited individual, we got our gun licenses back. So been a gun dealer ever since. So I've been a gun dealer since 1993. And even though we got prosecuted and got criminal charges for firearms and explosive offences, you know, it was nuts. I mean, the legal costs were like 65 grand, but the fines, we got two fines for $5,000 each.
Yeah,
We
okay.
originally
Yeah.
had 126 charges each because allowing people to play with, while not duly licensed, they tried to charge us on all, you know, different They spent 3 months tapping our phones, all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, okay.
And then it turned out when we all finally went to court that there was no prescribed penalty, which meant like an example is that you're not permitted to speed over 100 kilometres an hour,
Yep.
but there's no fine.
Yeah, okay.
So there's no prescribed penalty. So even though
Yeah.
you can't do it, there's no penalty for not doing it.
Yeah, okay.
Does that
Yeah.
make sense?
Yeah, sort of. I like, yeah. Oh,
Yeah. They wrote a provision in the act to prohibit you from doing it, but
yeah,
there's no
okay.
prescribed penalty for it.
Yeah, all right.
Yeah,
I
but
understand now, yeah.
so they got us with unregistered firearms. They got us with explosives. They got us with incorrect entries in the dealer's book. What
Yep.
the unregistered firearms were that we had brought in 20 guns from New Zealand that we had to apply for a permit for.
Yep.
So we had to get a customs permit. We had to get the import permit from the police. Then at the end of the month, so every month at the end of the month, you put your return in. because it was before the end of the month, the guns were technically unregistered. Even though the police had already given us the permit, the customs had already done the inspection, and we had just picked them up 2 days beforehand. And even though, and they said, oh, well, how do we know you had these? Well, I said, well, first off, Dennis, because we knew all the cops, I said, I applied to you to get a permit. You know we had them.
Yeah, it sounds a little bit bland.
It was. But actually, at the end of the day, Dennis Tocock, who was the senior acting inspector, he's a very nice guy, straight down the line. I dealt with him for years. He's actually working at the, the Gold Coast War Museum, or one of those war museums somewhere now, after he retired from the police down here up in Queensland.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, so that's interesting. Tim McCarthy's interesting to talk to if you ever speak to somebody else. Have you heard of Tim?
Yeah. No, I haven't. No.
Paintball Australia, Tim McCarthy, Mudrabar. Yeah, he's an interesting character. Great guy too.
Yeah. No, I've definitely heard that name. I don't know if I've ever met him, but I know that name.
Yeah.
I've been hearing it for years.
Yeah.
Yeah. So how did moving sort of forward? Have you always sort of catered to tournament style paintball, or have you mainly been just focused on punters?
Oh no! Look, I ran events. I've been involved with the East Coast events. There's been so many different leagues that come and go, and tournament players are the most needy individuals that need their hands held all the time. No matter what you do for them, it's not enough. You know what I'm saying.
Oh yeah, 100%. I was that nagging tournament player, but I always used to know, we want this, and it's like you guys are paying the least amount of money to be here, and you guys want everything. Yeah, no, they are.
Oh yeah. But you got to understand that we're marketing for you, and I'm like, who are you marketing to? You're marketing to convert it anyway, so there's no benefit to us.
Yeah.
You know.
No.
But the tournament players, look, I guested on so many teams over the years at the Masters and different events. That's why, like I said, with Peter Spencer, I was with the Jets, during the early 2000s, because it was easier to let somebody to jump on somebody else's team than to try to manage a team myself or have somebody, because it always turns into shit,
Yep. It's hard to run a team.
It is. I always just wanted to play. I had no interest in managing or telling anybody else what to do. Or I fell in love with paintball, and but events, no, quite a few years I wouldn't have tournament players on my fields. Well, once I had 3 fields and I was running flat out, and the sport actually evolved into what it is today. I didn't have the fields to do it, if that makes sense. They're all punter fields.
Yeah, and you need a lot of room for a sub-air field, and it pretty much needs to be a dedicated space.
Yeah. Well, you see, that's the other thing too. All my 3 fields, we actually own all 3 fields.
Nice.
So we own the Bland field, that's 78 acres. The Coldstream field, that's 55, but it's in the Yarra Valley. That's opposite. Have you heard of the concerts on the green, all those sort of things?
Oh yeah. Yep.
Yeah. We're opposite that.
Okay.
So all around us is vineyards, wineries, and shit like that. So we own that. And then the Bland, actually the Cockatoo field, that's 135 acres, and that's got a bed and breakfast on it that we bought at the same time. So,
awesome.
it is. But the Bland field, I think 10 years ago, was it 10 years ago? Yeah, probably about 8 years ago. We put a 10-man field up there and started running 10-man games in December. But we haven't done that for about 4 years because, like anything, tournament players or recreational players, there's no real loyalty. They'll go to wherever it's either $5 cheaper or it's in vogue at the time.
Yeah, that's true. There'll be some hot team training somewhere, and everyone will want to go and
Yep.
spend time with them, so they'll jump over there. Yep.
Yep. Yeah.
But,
Yeah. So
yeah,
yeah.
it is a shame. Like I just I wish more tournament players sort of knew that that's how the sport is. Like that they always say that, you know, we should be so lucky to have a place where we can train or that has a field set up.
Yep.
So because yeah, for a field owner, it's not the way that they're going to make money is having stuff there and all that kind of stuff. And I guess with our laws, we are a bit controlled because you have to play out of field.
Yep.
Yeah, so I think people just need to realize how lucky they are when a field owner wants to host a tournament or wants to have tournament players turn up.
Yep. Oh yeah. Look, Scott, you've been there. Have you come down by Coldstream? I'm just trying to
Yeah,
remember. Yeah.
yeah, we
When
played
you
down there when I was with SWAT, and yeah, that's it, when
yeah.
we were so used to ramping and it was all semi-automatic,
Yeah.
and we struggled. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
look, yeah, it's funny when you think. Well, we've got ramping down here now.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's set at you have to be 10.5 BPS.
Yeah.
You know, which is well. Look. I think since last time you're there, we've put another field in as well, like the tournament ones,
Yeah.
and we still got the compound. But I mean, on average, you know, most events, you know, there's like in Div 1, you got anything between 6 to like 9 teams, and then in novice, you know, you got, or not novice, you know, Division 2 or 3, you've probably got about the same, you know, but 6 to 10 teams, you know.
Yeah.
Where, you know, Michael will tell you back in the 90s, there'd be tournaments where you got 30 plus teams, 40 plus teams, you know.
Yeah, it's hard to
It's,
think that it was so much more expensive, and the guns back then were so expensive, and
and shit.
people
Oh,
just into it.
oh, yeah, that's right. Well, hey, tell you what, like Michael would have shown you some of the old agitators or hoppers where, you know, they basically had those little motors attached to them, and they had to have a whipper stepper wire in the inside to be able to churn the balls.
Yeah, I've seen a
Yeah,
couple of those. Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
or the idea of, well, in the late 80s and early 90s, the concept of a modified gun was polishing the inside of your brass barrel. You know, there was
Yeah.
no eyes, there was no gravity feed. You just had to give it a good shake, and you know, you broke paint in the gun. Oh, it was, yeah, it's changed a lot. A lot of the modern guns, pull them out of the box and they're fantastic. Um, there's a few guns that I don't like, but that's for another day. So,
Yeah. Well, and even the big switch from CO2 to compressed air now is a bit easier to obtain and keeps
yes,
the guns a bit cleaner and stuff.
yep. Oh yeah, yeah. Look, yeah, I've got, I think, 2 mobile compressors besides on the fields. Um, yeah, compressed air is miles better. Everything about it, everything. The guns are better. The paint's better. The goals are better. Uh, Everything. The climate's better. It doesn't rain a third of what it used to do 20 years ago. I don't care what anybody says. It used to. I remember when the first day we bought the Coldstream paintball field. We were trying to figure out what sort of van to buy for my wife to be able to go from Footscray to Coldstream. So
Yep.
we hired a Tarago, and Toyota Tarago, and
Yep.
it had 500 kilometres on the tank on the speedo.
Yeah.
And when she got back that night, it had been raining all day. The car was filled from the bottom to the roof with gear, dirty, muddy overalls. The whole roof line was just covered in mud. And we spent the entire Monday before we took it back, like I think about 3 hours, just cleaning the car, wiping the mud out of it. And we decided that it was too small. So, yeah, Jesus, that was an experience.
I love that. So yeah, you guys were still. It was like home base operations. You
Home
don't have.
base, yep,
Yeah.
that's right.
Yeah.
When
That's
we,
cool.
yeah, well, same thing. Get up. We used to have the biggest all the properties are fairly rural, if that makes sense. And it's not like today where you got, sophisticated alarm systems, you got Wi-Fi, mobile phones or whatever. You're talking about you can't just stick 100 or 200 guns in a shipping container on a bush block, which is an hour and a half away from the centre of Melbourne, and hope that it's still going to be there, 2 days later, let alone a week. When I first built the place, I put a concrete slab down.
Oh, you there?
Sorry, I dropped the headset. Sorry.
That's cool.
Oh no. No, I've had some good ideas and had some horrible ideas. It used to fog so much. I bought 80 pairs of fans, for the JT fans.
Oh yeah.
I bought 80 pairs of them, but they just don't work when people leave the batteries on or they get wet. So that was a waste of money. I remember that.
They probably would have been good for maybe the first week.
Yep. They're good for the average social punt or social individual, personally owned, but for field operation, worst thing I ever. Worst thing. Yeah. But the industry over the years, it's changed heaps. And I think the industry's in for a challenging time in regards for the different other activities that are out there to compete against. And I think gel blasters is going to be a major impact on the sport in the years to come. I see gel blasters as what paintball was in the 80s. That new activity. But then again, 10 years ago, 12 years ago, when airsoft came out in the US, that impacted big time on paintball. But each has got their own benefits, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So
the gel blasters will it is similar. I don't know what the laws surrounding it is like in Victoria, but I know in New South Wales they're illegal. But there's still people playing games. There's still big games of it going on in the forest and stuff like that people are organising. So it's out there, and I know I could probably name 20 people. I'm not, but I could probably name 20 people that own them.
Same here. I know the same. Victoria's the same as New South Wales. It's seen as a firearm. It cracks like a fire. You know what I mean? Looks it. They don't want it. But same thing. People are playing $10 on private land. They're not. They're like I said. It's the same as the 80s. When people first started playing, they didn't have the insurance, they didn't have the permit, they didn't actually know what they were doing. Then it basically came down to the councils enforcing it. It came down to the police enforcing it. At the moment, because of everything else that's going on in the world, the police are less likely to go out to a 100-acre block because it's better than doing it out there than running around the streets. Does that make sense?
Doing drive-by shooting or anything.
Exactly. But and that's what's happening. You're getting big, and they're paying $15 for 3,000 or 5,000 little balls. And even though their guns are shooting at 400 BPS, you know what I mean? They just don't relate to the fact that you could shoot all of them in a matter of about 10 to 15 seconds.
Well, it's the way I sort of see it is hopefully paintball's been down that long road and we're sort of a bit more established that people will respect it. There might have to be some small changes if it ever does become illegal, but that it'd have to be like an industry thing. I think like companies would have to start designing guns that don't look like real firearms to sell and all that kind of stuff if they wanted to try and bring it.
That's the novelty of airsoft, and that's the novelty of gel blasters. They look and crack like a real gun. I mean, I'm the same as every other operator. If I could, 10 years ago, I'd have half my team, half the guys running around, AR-15s, and the other half would be running around the AK-47. I got no problems with that.
It would be good.
Yeah. but we can't do it. But
Yeah.
until the police or there's a desire for them to actually stop it, that's going to impact on the sport. But I think there's always going to be a percentage of people who don't want to buy their own gun, only want to ever do it once, and don't want to do it illegally. That's the other thing, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. No, definitely. Yeah, when you hold a certain position or something like that, and or you enjoy other like shooting sports, that getting a firearms charge could be pretty detrimental
Yes.
to what you have planned.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, and I also tell people too. Like I actually had a guy phone up, um, and he was asking if he could come down and bring his guys down because to play, you know. And he said, well, first off, he said he had his own, he had gel blasters, and he said he also got his own paintball guns and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I said, well, you know, by the sound of it, you don't have the license because down here in Victoria, you've got a Pacific license. Where up in New South Wales, you guys have now just got rid of all of that, haven't you? With
Yeah. Yep.
paintball, yeah.
Yep.
Which
Lovely.
is, yeah, which is good. I mean, down here, we still do the firearms safety course for it. We still have to go through. It's $205 for 5 years, and you still have to get your PTAs, all that sort of stuff. And down here, I can't see it disappearing.
Yep.
But with gel blasters and all that sort of stuff, you know, they're not gonna. We're more of a nanny state than you guys are. I
Yeah,
just
and I
can't
can't
see
see
them.
them. Like there's a lot of push for even paintball to go the other direction, just
Yeah,
to be more stringent on the rules. So I doubt that they'd ever. Yeah,
yeah,
it'll be a long road before they allow anything like gel blasters or airsoft, which is
yeah,
unfortunate. That yeah, like airsoft's good, but the
yeah.
same, like it's all. I understand coming from your point of view, it does affect. Yeah, it's another competition in the industry.
Oh, look, at the end of the day, if they made it, if they, myself as a selfish individual,
Yep.
okay, well, I'll put it this way: if they legalise it, it would have to be the same requirements. You have to play at a location that is approved as well as insured.
Yep.
And the only way you get a place insured is if you're playing in a place that has got referees and safety instructions, not just signing a waiver form and saying, well, you know, you know, at the end of the day, if you're doing it illegally, a waiver form doesn't stack up anyway.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
and
No.
I tell people too, it's like, yeah, Uncle, you know, you can go and play with your mate John and Bill and all these guys, and they'll all put their hand up and swear black and blue, I swear I will not sue you if I get shot in the eye and lose
Yeah.
an eye.
Yeah.
But I say, you go home and your wife, your mother will go, what the fuck? You've lost an eye. You're a chippy. You're lost. And yes, you're going to be suing that guy because he's Uncle Bob has 150 acres and he's got money. You've lost an eye. He's going to make you pay. And that's what it is. You may have all good conscience not to sue somebody, but your mother or your girlfriend or your wife will be like up your ass big time.
Yeah, it's yeah, no, those waiver forms, they're worth not even worth the paper they're written on.
No, no, and for $10, well, yeah, yeah, I just don't understand it. But oh look, I think the social distancing is going to affect us big time, and this is going to be 12 months before we sort of recover. I think by September the restrictions will be lifted. I think the overseas travel ban will be still going until probably February next year because I wouldn't be going to America
Yeah,
at this point in time.
yep,
You know,
definitely.
no. And would you even at Christmas time? Would you jump on a plane to go to Italy, Europe, or would you go through Dubai, or would you, you know,
Yeah,
you won't.
no, it's
Nobody.
hard time to be in the airline industry.
Mm. Oh, well, it's like, well, yeah, we could talk about all that sort of shit all the time. Oh well.
Well, while I got you here, Danny, like, was there anyone that you'd like to give a shout out to, or someone that, anyone that's like helped you during the day, like sponsors or just anyone that you'd like to give a shout out to?
Oh, look, Michael and John from Action been great guys to us all the time. I mean, I first played at Helensburgh back in the day, back in I think '91. Um, and they were always helpful, very friendly, never had an issue. Even Stephen Terry from what Ultimate. What are they called nowadays? Shit, it's been so long since I've.
Yeah, I'm not
Black,
familiar with that name, so.
you're not.
Yeah.
Bankstown, Blacktown Gun Shop.
Yeah, okay. No,
Okay.
I'm still, yeah.
Still blank.
Yeah, still a blank, sorry.
They had probably one of the first paintball shops in New South Wales. Then
Yeah,
they
okay.
found that they got sick and tired of spending 20 minutes talking to a paintball guy about a pair of goggles. And then so they decided, since they had the gun license, they started selling real guns.
Yeah.
And they used to own Helensburgh
Yeah, okay.
before Michael. And then you've got it was like the carcasses, from Heartbreak Ridge.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
Yeah, they were very nice guys. I can't believe they're both dead. It's just
Yeah.
unbelievable.
Yeah.
But that used to be a massive field, and now it's just a little, tiny little thing. They used to
Yeah,
have an indoor field in the early '90s. That's where
yeah,
they
okay.
first started.
Yeah. Cool.
But no, shout out to Hot Shots, Steve Gouchy down here in Victoria. Him and Mal, they're great people to deal with. Same as, look, all operators hate each other. When you're competitors, you hate each other. I mean, I get along better with everybody in the state than I do with the guys down here in Victoria, because I'm not opposition in the state. We're here in Victoria. I'm seen as a dog, It's just the way it is. But
Oh, yeah.
Steve, yes,
Yeah.
But Michael's great. I like Michael. I like John. Very helpful. Anytime I've ever been to action, I don't think I've been up there for about so many years. I think about 4 or 5. I asked Michael one day about the shooting contest in the car park.
Okay.
That was fun.
All right.
He still owes me a drink. Actually, do you want me to tell you about it?
Oh, is it illegal?
Of course not. There's nothing illegal.
Yeah, sure.
Nothing's illegal. Well, we're standing in the shop, right? And this is after, I think, first day or second day of the Masters. And everybody's sort of gone. We're looking down at the end of the grass area, there's like the bend down the back. There was like a can sitting there.
Yep.
Yeah, so they said, well, okay, let's have $5 a shot. Whoever hits the can gets the $5. But it's only one shot, breech loaded. So you pick up a ball, put it in the gun, and one shot. You're only allowed to have one. You can't have 2. You can't have 3. It's one shot only, and every shot's $5. So I think there was Michael. I don't know whether Ryan Greenspan was involved, but there was 5 of us, right? And Michael actually got closest quite a few times.
Yeah.
So when we ended up giving up. When it got to about $360, because you had to physically put in money every time you wanted a shot. You
Yeah.
had other people coming. Oh, yeah, here's $20. I'll have 4 shots. It's like, fuck off, idiot. If you want to be involved, start your own pool. Because once you got over $200, this was us 5.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
So then we gave up, and we decided that the money would be best spent at the presentation at the Masters, so that the 5 of us could have a few drinks amongst each other.
Yeah.
So that's everything. But you know what I mean? It was $5 a shot, and we all think we're fucking good shots. We just couldn't hit that can at the end of that grass knoll right down the back. You know where the bin is?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I know the one you're talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah, it sounds like you might have started we could see a new trend. It
Well,
might be a
there
new
was
game.
yeah. Like I said, $5. It's just $5 in. We're all good shots. One shot only. No 2 shots. Breech load, and you just pick up the paintball and put it in. That's all it is. Fucking couldn't get it. Yeah, so that was a novelty. That was fun. So yeah.
Yeah,
But
well, was there
Michael,
any... Oh, sorry.
what?
Go ahead.
No. Yeah.
I was just going to say, was there anyone that, that you'd recommend to go on the show? Someone that you would like to either, hear their story, or you think it's got a good history with paintball?
Oh, Al Grierson was always good. He was there in the early 80s and early 90s until he got screwed over. He was involved with South Australia and Victoria and New South Wales. He was a bit of a mover and shaker. He was trying to invent a plastic paintball in China. So that was
Okay.
different. So
Yeah.
those are biodegradable paintball, plastic paintball instead of gelatin.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep. So
Yeah.
he was involved in that quite a few years.
Yeah, and it's
Um,
ahead of its time.
oh
Oh,
yeah,
it
that was
sounds good.
in there. It was an interesting concept. They just couldn't get it to fly straight because it was more like a water balloon. It didn't have wasn't rigid enough.
Yeah,
And if they made it rigid enough, it wouldn't break. It would be like shooting each other with, bloody.
like a marble.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So he was interesting. Who else would be interesting to talk to? Um, Michael's interesting to talk to, but Michael's very business orientated toward himself.
Why, Brew?
Yeah.
Yeah, I got him on. He's it just aired last on Friday, his
Oh
episode.
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so you
Yeah.
can
Yeah.
check that out if you want and
Oh well.
have a
Oh,
listen to what he's got
yeah.
to say.
I've known Michael. I've known unfortunately. It's I think yeah. Oh shit. Yeah. I've competed against him in WA. Oh, no, South Australia. Shit, that was years ago. Strathhausen. It was all bush ball event.
All right, Danny, we're sort of run out of time here, so
Okay.
we'll have to wrap it up.
You.
But yeah, thanks for giving us the opportunity to have a chat, and thanks for dropping in and
No
talking to
worries.
me.
No problem, Scott. Well, thank you
Awesome.
very much for giving us the call. Okay, buddy.
Yeah, no
Might see you
worries.
down here one day.
That's a wrap on another episode. Thank you once again to Danny for taking the time and sitting down and having a chat. Thank you everyone for tuning in to the show once again and checking this out. It was massive for me to make it to episode 10. I've read an article a little while ago that said more than 90% of podcasts don't make it past episode 10. So this was my goal to get here and to keep pushing through. So thank you everyone for making this all worthwhile. Thanks for all the people that have checked out and donated to the Patreon. Don't forget, if you want to help support the show, for as little as $2, you can jump on that Patreon. Just search Down Under Paintball. Find us on all good podcasting apps, Facebook, YouTube. If you want to get in contact, just search me out, Scott Martin. Thanks everyone. This is Down Under Paintball.